This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
Grateful to have you here with us on what we're promising, John Hicks. What we're promising will be an excellent episode of Real Talk. And we promise with confidence. We've got a guest coming up in just a couple of minutes, Leah Eichler. We've been looking forward to getting her on the show for quite some time. Leah's been doing a lot of work to sort of to follow the saga, the story of the Epstein files, despite efforts, arguably and allegedly, from some of the highest offices in the world. Yeah. To distract folks, to prompt people to forget about the Epstein files. Yeah. We've seen people suggesting that this entire war in Iran, and I would say that that's probably oversimplifying the matter, but people that are saying, listen, the Trump White House is so keen to support Israel and participate in this war in Iran because they're so keen to turn the page on the Epstein files. But Leah's been writing for the Globe and Mail on this. We'll check in with her in just a sec.
The Trump playbook is just out there now, man. I don't even know what they're doing. They're like, forget about the files, and then Melania's like, here's the files right in your face again. But Trump, he always, every time he gets out in front of the camera, he gives you something else to talk about. And I think that's part of his playbook. And the funniest part, I know we played some of it yesterday, was him asking a DoorDash delivery person who came to talk about
DoorDash grandma.
Yeah, basically come to pump them up that, some rates and raises and tips had been increased for the workers.
Tax-free tips,
who obviously took care of us during the pandemic. Let's admit it. We all ate fast food delivered by DoorDash and other.
I'm still carrying that weight, John.
Yeah, I just wrote off a lot of it in this year's taxes. No, I'm just kidding. But he's standing there with her and he's talking about, how he wasn't dressed like Jesus. He was dressed as a physician. Then out of nowhere, he says, and you don't agree with men and women's sports, do you? And the DoorDash person looks at him like, I have no opinion on that. I'm here to talk about like raises and rates, but it's just another thing out of the Trump playbook is to always distract. Oh, look over here, while I do the magic trick over there.
Well, like you pointed out, when the First Lady stepped in front of the cameras a number of days ago and basically sort of revived that conversation, it got a lot of people thinking, and Leah had to call him out. This was like about a month ago at the Globe and Mail. When it comes to Epstein files apologies, sorry is not enough. And so we knew that we had to get Leah on the show. She's also got a fascinating, she's a regular columnist for the Globe, and her new piece is out. I don't know if you heard about this. I'll credit Leah to her face in a second. I was not even aware of the alpine divorce trend. Are you?
Oh yeah.
Do you know what this is? Yeah. Like, this is crazy. It's not. You've heard about the other services. I guess a free plug for one of these. You hear about like the fairway divorce, where there's new trends where relationships are breaking up, and folks that aren't experiencing a lot of like animosity, or at least they're not looking to bury one another. They'll come together. They'll partner together. It's this new way of divorcing. And I guess when I heard of alpine divorce, I kind of thought it was something like that. Turns out it's not. It's actually the most malicious, mean-hearted.
It's horrible.
It's one of the most brutal ways I can imagine.
Yeah. And it's making a comeback, but it originated back in the late 1800s. And it was basically when men would want to leave their wives, instead of confronting them, they'd take them on a hiking trip.
And leave them.
And literally leave them in the woods with no way back.
So she's writing about, anyway, we got to get to this story. Leah's coming up in just a moment. And then Tasha Kheiridden, do I say conservative commentator? Anyway, political commentator, long time, nationally read. You see her on TV, you hear her on the radio, and she's been a good friend of this show. She's got a piece out basically like, the Montreal Gazette ran it yesterday, and she's pretty certain, and we'll let her say it. I mean, I will acknowledge that in the title of today's episode, we've called it the floor crossing forecaster. She's saying that the Liberal win in Quebec, that by-election win in Terrebonne in particular, could push more conservative MPs to flee. So we'll get her take on that before the episode's up. We'll also take you out to Jasper, as you know we do every Wednesday, courtesy of our friends at Tourism Jasper. We're not going to keep Leah waiting, so let's let you know that this episode is happening with the presenting sponsorship from our friends at Rapid X X Financial. You can find them online 24/7 at rapidxfinancial.com. You know, the crypto world moves fast. That's an understatement. But your trust in an exchange absolutely cannot be a gamble. That's exactly why we're proud to partner with RapidX Financial, a made-in-Alberta solution backed by the same experts behind those Rapid Cash ATMs that you've seen across Canada for like 25 years. You've probably used them many times. Maybe you didn't realize that was a proud Alberta company. Well, RapidX has made it easy to get started with 3 ways to trade. They've got the physical crypto ATMs. They've got that secure online platform that we're referring you to. That's rapidxfinancial.com. And of course, an over-the-counter desk for discrete, larger value trades, or if you could use a little human input. A special offer for you, Real Talkers, because you're hearing about it here. If you use the promo code Ryan50, Ryan50 at rapidxfinancial.com, they'll take 50% off fees on all of your online Interac e-transfer trades. RapidX is secure. It's FinTrack registered, which is a huge deal. And critically, it's non-custodial, meaning you will always control your keys. That's rapidxfinancial.com. The promo code Ryan50. All right, let's get right to this. The First Lady, Melania Trump, prompting increased conversation, renewed focus on the Epstein files with an interesting statement just a number of days ago. Leah Eichler has been writing about this, the Epstein files in particular, for the Globe and Mail. Longtime author, longtime journalist, formerly of Reuters and the Jerusalem Report. Leah, it's so nice to have you on the show. Thanks for making time for us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
What were you thinking when you see Melania Trump walk up to that podium with the presidential seal and basically it seemed like out of nowhere, all of a sudden looking to I guess, set the record straight or absolve herself of any responsibility or connection to the Epstein files? Where does your head go?
Well, yeah, I mean, as a journalist, you always want to know why now. So why is she coming out with this now? It's actually, I mean, as you know, I'm really interested in language and what language says about us. Importantly, we almost never hear Melania speak. So the fact that she is speaking means we want to pay attention. Now, did she speak very well? No. Did she speak very eloquently? Also, no. But she spoke out, which was unusual. So, usually where there's smoke, there's fire. We're all waiting for the other shoe to drop to see, what she's hiding and what's going to come out of this.
What have you made? And I want to get specifically into your column for the Globe and Mail on this, but just the remarkable reality that is so many names in the Epstein file, so many allegations, so much public dialogue and conversation about it, but really, generally speaking, kind of nothing happened. It's almost like it's stalled out. It's an unresolved situation.
Well, that's it. I mean, and what interested me about the Epstein saga, I mean, it's been reported to death, although you're right, it's been reported and nothing has really happened. I mean, if you step back for a second and think, okay, all of these people are implicated. I mean, who other than one woman, like who's gone to jail? Like really, what are the repercussions? The repercussions have been almost nil. What interested me is the impact. I mean, the longer that nothing gets done, this actually impacts not only the Epstein victims, but it impacts women really everywhere. I don't know a single woman reader who has been following the Epstein files who doesn't feel a bit of a secondary PTSD. Like how, a lot of women, as you know, get assaulted. A lot of women are, subjected to different horrible things. And reading about this and the fact that there's been so little repercussions is hurtful. It actually, it starts to weigh on your psyche, which is what kind of sparked the column. Is, we live in, I would say almost a post-apology world. I mean, apology is now something that you equate with weakness. No one takes any sort of, no one wants to take any responsibility for anything. And that has long-term implications for women everywhere. You can see this, with the Trump administration. I think it's bled into a lot of different parts of our lives that cruelty really is the purpose of everything. And I think we need to, at some point, move away from cruelty and find a way to actually find some closure.
Yeah, so well said. When the DOJ has released, obviously embargoed or not embargoed files, but redacted files, and late night comedians have certainly had a heyday with those and what have you. But the number one thing that so many people did, including this army of journalists, was to start searching for names, start
That's
looking
right.
for names that jumped out, right? And there have been some big ones,
Right.
including former U.S. presidents, one of the richest
Yep.
people on planet Earth, Bill Gates, Deepak Chopra, one of the most influential, sort of, what would you call him, like a mental health and wellness type commentator, author, anyway.
Wouldn't call him that anymore, but yeah.
Right? Like
Guru.
a guru.
Guru.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, good. Noam Chomsky. I mean, like
Noam Chomsky.
and Dr. Stephen Hawking. I mean, the list goes on, right?
It goes on and on. I mean, and it's I mean, I think we forget about all of the secondary and tertiary harm. I mean, you look at Noam Chomsky and his wife, came out and essentially apologized for him. I mean, really, there's nothing more horrific than a wife apologizing for her husband's misdemeanors and bad behavior. But it's no one has actually really. There was a time, if I want to go back into my early journalism days, and politicians actually screwed up. There was a time where people would actually take responsibility. They would get ahead of the story. They would say, this was my role in something. I am genuinely contrite. This is how I will do better. That doesn't happen anymore. And the implications of that never happening. I mean, you have someone like Bill Gates. I mean, Bill Gates presumably runs a foundation that's supposed to help people. But I mean, has he taken personal responsibility for his role? I mean, he can deny whatever he wants to deny, but his name helped bolster a ring of pedophiles. I mean, and where's the contrition there?
Yeah, right. And what I also thought was particularly interesting as well was Bill Gates' former wife speaking out on this as well. And basically, I thought that the position that she took on it was remarkable. We shared it on a previous episode and kind of dug into it a little bit, but she came across as I don't know, disagree with me like, but I thought generally understandably unsympathetic and almost encouraging a deeper dive into the whole thing, right?
I mean, we don't know what happened in that marriage. It obviously fell apart spectacularly.
Yeah.
But, there was, even rumors way back when where she said she did not like this relationship with Epstein, and, here's a wife. Okay. I mean, the wife behind the big man, as we see, and especially in the tech industry, saying, this is not good for us. Okay. Did he listen? Apparently not. Maybe he should listen sooner.
Yeah, no kidding. Leah, what at the end of the day, and I'll encourage people to read your column. It's not, and it's not one of these columns that ages, by the way, which is brilliant. You published it on March 9th, and it still holds true today, which actually I think kind of reiterates one of the points that you're making, which is that it remains unresolved. But when you say that, when it comes to Epstein file apologies, sorry is not enough, what do you think would represent like a move in the proper direction? I'm phrasing this carefully because it's such a disaster and so many lives have been impacted. But where does this need to go in your mind?
When you talk about harm, and I mean, we can open up the newspaper, or the pages of your phone or whatever. You can open up the news any single day, and there's so much harm that is being done right now. I mean, on a level that I don't know, I've definitely not seen in my lifetime. And, we're talking about wars and other things. But, for victims, there's really the most important thing for victims, I think, is for their harm to be recognized publicly and specifically. So not just like, oh, I'm sorry that my name was here. No, what does that say? That's not even like brand awareness. It's more like, I see that my role in this, in horrible, historical event has impacted you, this name personally. This is how it's impacted you. I am so sorry. How can I make it right? How can I offer, how can I offer even financial compensation? I mean, no one's really talking about financial compensation. I mean, doesn't Gates run a foundation? Isn't he a billionaire? Where's the compensation? I mean, would it really be that hard for him to say, I'm going to put together a fund for the victims? I mean, come on. I mean, that if I was counseling him for PR, like that would be one of my suggestions. Recognizing their names, recognizing people, recognizing the harm, and actually doing better. Like, where's the learning in all this? I mean, does anyone learn from their mistakes anymore? I don't think so.
We're talking to Leah Eichler in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. Leah, you schooled me. You brought me up to speed on alpine divorce. I had never heard of this. I had no idea about it. I see your column at theglobeandmail.com. This is wild, and it's been going on like forever. But how did alpine divorce wind up on your radar?
So, I mean, I like to focus on language and what language says about us as a culture. I mean, language is something that is fluid. It changes all the time. In my estimation, language is changing at an even faster clip than it used to change. And, especially, with the social mediaization, the TikTokization of everything, words evolve and trends evolve really, really quickly. The Epstein story was kind of unusual. It wasn't words that were said, it was words that were not said. In the Alpine divorce case, what I found was interesting is, yes, I heard about the Alpine divorce trend, but what really bothered me is that this was being labeled as like a dating trend. I mean, this is not a dating trend. This is assault, possibly attempted murder. It comes from, a short story called The Alpine Divorce by a Canadian-Scottish author who wrote it in 1893. It's a Gothic story where, a man climbs a mountain. A man and a woman hate each other. Okay, they're a husband and wife. In 1893, it was very difficult to divorce. That was the social setting for this story. They don't know how to get out of their relationship. He decides to go on a hike in Switzerland. He takes his wife with him, or she insists on coming. He decides when he gets to the peak, he's going to push her off. She actually knows about this. Interestingly enough, she knows her husband very well. And she pulls the fast one, actually. I mean, it's a really Gothic and very horrible story. She decides to tell someone that her husband's going to kill her. And when they have this disagreement on top of the mountain, she actually throws herself off, and then he gets charged with her murder. It is a very, very short story. You can find it. It's free online. But the interesting thing is that the TikTokers of the world and the Redditors of the world have found this story and picked it up. Now, most likely they picked it up because there's been a surprisingly raft of stories about this where men are actually leaving their partners on hikes. It's not always to kill them. It could be a matter of they get into an argument, they walk ahead, they decide to take all the, supplies with them. They leave maybe their partner isn't as skilled at hiking. From a literary standpoint, it interested me because, going up a mountain or going for a hike, it usually means like a spiritual awakening or getting closer to God. This is really the opposite. This is, I'm going to do something very nefarious.
So what's like, do we seek to understand what's driving the logic or the justification or the behavior behind this? Like, is there a common thread or a common theme with the perpetrators in this case?
I was struggling with this. And of course, this is something that's been happening for a while. Now, the thing is, it's with any trend that's been happening for a while, it's raised its popularity because it has a title now. So now people know what this is and they can recognize it. So of course, this has been happening forever. There could be a bunch of things. I think there is, two parts to it. One is, there is this, social media awareness where people want the best photo and they want the most scenic thing, and maybe they go on blind dates, and they don't really know their partners, and they're going on hikes that could, put them in a dangerous spot. Maybe they're not thinking things through because the objective is to get the best shot with, the hot guy that they met on Hinge or whatever. The other side of it is, of course, something I'm acutely aware of, which is, the toxic masculinity culture that is really pervasive everywhere. And I think it's a lot more subtle. I think this is the more common experience is, let's say a couple are going up a mountain, and this is the one I've seen most often on Reddit forums and TikTok. And there's a disagreement, and the partner doesn't really intend to abandon his girlfriend and kill her. It's a little bit of a power play. So it's a power move. Like, I'm just going to walk ahead. It's okay if you don't know where you are. I know where you are. I'm going to come back and get you in an hour or 2 hours. But for those hour and 2 hours, I'm going to kind of gaslight you into thinking that you're lost. And then when I find you, I'm going to say, well, you were never really lost. I was right here. You should have walked faster. And so I think this is the gaslighting. Gaslighting, again, is another term that people call a dating term, which is just really abuse. It's interesting how these abusive terms are now synonymous with dating. But I think that's the more common experience.
I love your fascination with language, and I love how it drives your curiosity and your ability to tell these kinds of stories. You must obviously be quite intrigued. I mean, you're right about it, but intrigued by how new tech or new platforms, new ways that we communicate, like online forums like Reddit, as an example, and TikTok's another good example that you write about in your piece, on how, in particular, women are able to share their stories and how it serves almost like, I mean, there's a couple of things. Number one, as a bit of an awareness resource, right? Mm-hmm. And number two, I think as well, if like there's, I was reading through them and scrolling through like on Reddit, and we've just found one here, but there's like millions of engagements and hundreds and thousands of contributions, and people are telling all kinds of stories, like nightmare stories. A lady talking about being on a cruise out of Miami, and she and her brand new husband at that point wound up, she says, it wasn't a climbing incident, but a similar story. Another one's builds off that, and she's telling her story on a rock face with a guy that she thought would be the guy. Anyway, it goes on and on and on, and on one hand, it's like devastating to read.
It is.
Right? Yeah. How do you wrap your mind around that? You must have done a deep dive on these forums before you wrote your column.
I have. I mean, and the interesting thing is, I mean, we know that the rates in which people harm their partners or kill their partners is really high. So I think it shouldn't be surprising. What interested me, yes, I mean, the kind of silver lining, if I had to find a silver lining, is there are these women on TikTok or on Reddit forums sharing their stories, and they're sharing survival stories. So this is like, yes, this horrible thing happened to me. I survived. And then there is this community of women behind them, bolstering them up and saying, this is us. We're a community. We're gonna stand together. We're going to support each other. So there is a silver lining there. I think, the flip side is, I try not to read the comments on my own stories quite often, but, but sometimes I can't help myself. And, there's always someone who, wants to kind of pull it apart and say, well, what did the women do? Like what, maybe she wanted to, kill her partner and this was self-defense, or, maybe, she was, and this is my favorite, maybe she was cheating on him, all of these excuses. I mean, I think, it's horrible, but there's so much rage. I mean, it's not a coincidence that, the word of the year, I think it was last year, it was rage bait. There's so much rage online right now. People just love to be angry, and unfortunately they love to be angry at women.
Yeah. Did you get the sense that this is something that like law enforcement is paying closer attention to now, or is this something that like anti-violence or anti-domestic violence advocacy groups would be waking up to? Is this more just something that triggers I don't use trigger in a pejorative way. Like a public conversation, like you referenced, for example, the Choose the Bear movement from a few years ago, and how that may not have been, it wasn't like an official thing, or it wasn't pushed out by some marketing agency on behalf of a big, brilliant call to action, but it got everybody talking. And when you and I reference it now, almost everybody knows what we're talking about.
Well, I don't want to be cynical, but maybe I will be a little bit cynical. I don't know, domestic violence. I can't pull the numbers off the top of my head right now, but, I don't think it's anything that's ever going to go away. I don't think it's anything that's ever going to get better. I mean, if you look at the Epstein, let's go back to the Epstein files. I mean, there are thousands of women who are victimized in those files. What happened to the victims?
Yeah.
I think we don't care for victims in our society. I think, unfortunately, if you see, especially the trajectory of what's happening in the United States, where a lot of women's rights are being rolled back at a very dangerous rate, I think we care less about women, even than we did maybe even 10 years ago. I like to say things are getting better, but they're probably getting worse.
That feels like a really lousy place to end
Sorry.
it. No, I actually think that that's also a very powerful way to end it, to just have people thinking about this. And I mean, look at the common threads between the two stories, the two columns of yours we've discussed. I'm so grateful that you made time to talk to us today, Leah. I want to let people know that they can dig into more of your work at leaheichler.com. We'll link to that in the show notes on the podcast on YouTube. That's where they can subscribe to your Substack as well. We'll look forward to your next appearance on the show. Thanks for doing this.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks very much, Leah. Leah Eichler joining us in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. I see in our live stream presented by California Closets. We've got a bunch of people watching us on YouTube right now that are just sharing sort of their own personal thoughts. Jill says anybody who's a true outdoors person would know that the group, or even a couple, it goes the pace. You go the pace of the slowest in the group for the safety of everybody. And if you're hiking with somebody that doesn't, he says that is red flag city. I was digging into this Reddit thread, and this is just one of them. But Crux Crush, for example, left this comment. This is like a month ago on Reddit. They're commenting to women being left behind on hiking trips, climbing trips. Crux Crush says, not exactly the same. Says, I can't be 100% sure. That's a wild part too, right? The uncertainty. Says, I can't be 100% sure, but I believe my spouse may have planned to push me off a cliff. He made a joke about it, gave me a playful but a pretty strong shove at that moment, and then somebody came around the corner and into view. Says we were long distance at that time due to work, so I wasn't in another situation like that again. And shortly after I found out he'd been cheating, he was the beneficiary of all my accounts, my life insurance, my property. Says I'm not rich, but it's a good chunk of money. Somebody else replies, said, oh, yeah, I dated a guy who did this on nearly every hike we went on for years. 20 minutes into every hike, he'd just leave me behind. Wouldn't even stop for a water break. I wouldn't see him again until the summit, or sometimes when he was already descending.
I tell you, Ryan, this is why I have a lot of friends. They're health nuts, They're and more power to them. They're sober. They're finding themselves in their 40s, and they want to say, hey, man, I'm going hiking this weekend. You want to come? And I say, alpine divorce.
Alpine
I
divorce.
say, I'm not going anywhere.
Or where'd you get me left behind?
But how wild is that to treat someone like an injured animal, like a dog or something you would take out and just, and let loose in the wilderness? It's absolutely insane that this is coming back again. And I think it ties into I know not directly, but this whole red pill manosphere idea that, women are objects, women should be subservient to men. And when they're used up, they're to be discarded, right?
Huh. This is all Ms. KD in our chat, powered by Park Power, says there's a woman that was in the news last week testifying her husband tried to throw her off a cliff in Hawaii on her birthday trip. Well, so I Googled it. Ms. KD, I appreciate it. I hadn't even seen this, so I'm referencing NBC News here. This is Gerhard Koenig. But this is kind of like a he said, she said scenario. Again, this is my first glance at it, so maybe I'll eat my words in a second. But a Maui doctor accused of trying to kill his wife on a birthday hike says he hit her with a rock in self-defense. Says his wife tried to push him from the cliff. Prosecutors have charged him with second-degree attempted murder.
It's crazy. And this is why when detectives, when police officers investigate crimes involving, a husband and a wife, they're always going right to the spouse first, right? Because like Leah said, the majority of these crimes happen by, whenever you see a kidnapping or a murder or something like that, especially when it happens in a home, everyone's quick to think, oh, it was an assailant. It was someone who broke in. It was a crime of this or that. And it's usually the exact opposite. Like the majority of the time, it's someone or someone who's so close to you, being the person you spend your life with, right? But these alpine stories, I was reading them yesterday, actually, because there's a whole thread going on TikTok and X, and I'm like, is this a joke? Is this did AI input this into the chat or what? And it's real though. It's real and it's happening.
Well, it's sort of like one of the roles I think that this show needs to have is just putting stuff on our radar that might not otherwise be on our radar. And maybe I was the only one that had never even heard of this. But when I saw Leah's column, we reached out. We're like, we got to get you on. We were going to talk to her about the Epstein files anyway. Appreciate Amy's watching us. Our live stream presented by California Closets. You can find us on 7 different social media platforms. And, of course, you can always book a free consultation with California Closets, californiaclosets.ca. Amy says most recently she's referencing that Gerhard Koenig trial in Hawaii. Says he was convicted of attempted manslaughter last week, trying to push his wife off a cliff on a hike. While she fought back, he tried to inject her. He was an anesthesiologist, and when she fought back from that, he hit her head with a rock until hikers came along and called 911. Jeez. Okay, appreciate you putting that on our radar. If you have, I mean, it feels like, I mean, you never know, right? You never know what someone's experiencing. You never know the miles somebody's walked. If you have a story relating to alpine divorce, if you have a personal experience in this regard, something that you personally were subjected to, or perhaps somebody that you know, you can send us an email, and if you'd prefer it to be in confidence and anonymously, that's fine too. talk@ryanjesperson.com, and we can keep this conversation going. Tasha Kheiridden, in just a moment, says she's expecting, in particular, due to the Quebec, the Terrebonne by-election result, that was, kind of the big 3 that we were talking about, the 2 in Toronto, the 1 in Quebec. Tasha says the result in Quebec could prompt more conservative MPs to leave the fold. We'll find out why and get Tasha's take. I mean, she's a veteran political commentator. She's been keeping a keen eye and commenting on federal politics in Canada for a couple of decades now. What does the majority government transition look like? We asked our panel yesterday. If you missed Ken Bosencool, Shannon Phillips, and Tyler Meredith, you can check out that episode of the show. That was a good one, kind of a sort of a triple header take on what that looks like. That would be our April the 14th episode. We'll get Tasha's take on that as well. By the way, Ken Bosencool, checked in with us after the interview yesterday, and I absolutely thought this was amazing. As you know, Ken, I won't say he showed up a few minutes late, because the fact that Ken checked in at all from Vietnam was pretty remarkable. But he wrote in and he said, I hope that was okay. He texted me after the fact. He said, I was setting up, and then the karaoke just started coming through the speakers right above my head.
Oh, isn't that the worst when you're trying to get business done on a cruise or on a vacation, and all you hear is, if you like pina coladas?
I said, Kenny, I said, you're the first person, as far as I know, and I can say this with pretty rock-solid confidence, to ever check in with the show and do an interview from a karaoke bar in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Sounds like a good time.
So, but hey, listen, yeah, we're chuckling, we're laughing. A lot of people aren't, and we'll get to some of your responses as well. Like many of you, quite frankly, pissed off about the floor crossings, and I get it. The reality is, Carney's got his majority, and the reality is that'll have implications on how that party governs. It's going to have implications on the official opposition and for everyday Canadians. So we'll get into that with Tasha Kheiridden coming up in just a second. First, this is a message presented by the Alberta Teachers Association. When 51,000 spoke up for Alberta's students, what did the government do? Well, they suspended teachers' charter rights to collective bargaining, and they made it harder for Alberta's teachers to speak out for what students need at school. They did it by invoking the notwithstanding clause, and they didn't have to. Alberta's teachers want you to know that the government had other options, and that's why the ATA, the Alberta Teachers Association, is taking the government to court to get teachers' charter rights restored. They won't stop advocating for students because it shouldn't be wrong to speak up for kids. This is a message from the Alberta Teachers Association. Our friends at Friesen Brothers have a lot going on this week, and quite frankly, there's really nothing new about that, because there's always something cooking at Friesen Brothers, and that includes their monthly specials, their features like the Alberta Reuben sandwich and pizza. Say no more. This is just a friendly reminder, friends, by the way, the Friesen Brothers pizzas that we talked to you about. You walk in, you grab them, you bring them home, you throw them in your oven. These aren't like the frozen, like sort of disc frisbee type pizzas, guys. Oh. These are like the soft dough. Like, you got to be careful putting it in your oven, because it's like just like in the pizzeria. And it comes out fantastic. It is such an economical choice. That's what our family does. Instead of ordering pizza, so to speak, we pop into a Friesen Brothers. Haven't tried the Alberta Reuben yet, though. I'm going to have to do that for sure. A reminder as well, they also have their Alberta Pork Sweet Breakfast Sausage, available only till the end of April. You can learn more by following the Butcher Shop link at friesen.com, or of course just pop into their store. Make sure you let them know you heard about them on Real Talk. Albertans are winning every single day with Play Alberta. You know that? Do you see that story? The winner in Whitecourt scores $400,000 on Vegas fruit fortunes. 400 G's. Hundreds of popular casino games to choose from, some of them with jackpots worth millions. And there's a major casino winner literally every hour. Plus, all the revenue stays right here in Alberta, which is what we love about this. If you like what you're hearing, you can download the Play Alberta app today to get started with casino, sports, and lottery all in one app. You got to be 18 or over to play. When you gamble, make sure you use your game sense. And if you have a story of an Albertan achieving big things, we'd love to see your submission for Alberta Wins. That's our Thursday feature segment presented by Play Alberta. Send us your Alberta win to talk@ryanjesperson.com. And before we get to Tasha, I want to remind you that the spring installation schedule for Kubi Renewable Energy is filling up fast. This is Western Canada's busiest. And as far as I can tell, I mean, we've seen the quality of their installs. I'm going to say they are the most diligent, detail-driven solar installer that we've ever seen. You know, I love when they send us the drone footage and we get to just look at it.
Let's show a bit of it.
You want to see it? Check out what they're doing up there.
I don't mean to steal your thunder, but I think it's worth noting about some of the deals they're giving to some
the Powering Those Who Protect.
Yeah,
isn't that cool?
Great initiative I saw yesterday.
Yeah, so that's their first responders. Glad you brought it up. This is basically if you're a police officer, firefighter. Obviously, everybody can think of like members of the military. When you think first responders, Kubi's also extending this offer to 911 operators, anybody, search and rescue personnel. This, in part, I think, because the CEO of Kubi, Jake Kubicki, is the son of a firefighter.
Sure.
I think that probably goes a long way in how they value first responders. So the Powering Those Who Protect program knocks 5% off your entire project right off the top. And then the team at Kubi will get to work from there, looking for other government incentives and bursaries and all kinds of reasons why it just adds to the list. It makes sense for you to go green this spring or summer. You can learn more. Get a free quote today by checking out kubi.ca. That's KUBY.ca. All right, well, we got to get to this because obviously this is a story that has dominated the headlines early this week, to say the least, as the Carney government achieves its majority government. It did so in a couple of different ways. Number one, of course, with a series of floor crossings, and number two, by sweeping 3 by-elections in Ontario and Quebec. Tasha Kheiridden is one of Canada's most read political commentators, a wonderful friend of this show. She writes in the Montreal Gazette and in papers across the country that Liberal win in Terrebonne in particular could push more Conservative MPs to cross the floor.
I love this photo. I want to know what Tasha thinks of this photo.
Just
the expression on his face, Tasha, is just like, how do you like me now?
Tasha, Johnny described it yesterday as a how you like them apples photo.
Yeah, well, yeah, no one's munching apples right now. He's just like, he's in the, he's in clover. He's in the catbird seed. Pick your metaphor. I mean, that grin, that smile.
My gosh.
It's like, yeah. It reminds me, actually, you know who it reminds me of?
Huh.
Pierre Elliott Trudeau.
Oh, yeah?
Pierre Elliott Trudeau, yeah. Justin Trudeau's father had similar kind of like, hey, here, I'm just here. And what are you going to do? Like just that sort of insouciance. So, yeah.
I saw a similar response. I don't have the clip pulled right now, but Mark Carney was asked yesterday. There was a series of questions. Number one, they say, actually, we do have the one about Pierre Poilievre, don't you? When Pierre Poilievre says that he was very badly educated on economics, and Carney responds with kind of the facial expression.
Oh, wow.
Oh, did he?
Oh, wow. That's what he said. And everyone behind him laughed because it was an absurd thing to say.
Yeah. Honestly. And then he's asked if he thinks Pierre Poilievre should resign, and same sort of a thing where, he's got that kind of Cheshire cat grin. He's got the grin and the confidence and the swagger of someone who's just achieved a majority. Now, on the flip side, and the audience is going to go, what, did you bring Tasha on here just to gush over the Carney majority, just to lick his boots, just to carry water for him?
That's not what they're texting. Oh,
no, they're not. No, this was a hypothetical, Tasha. I'm getting ahead of the comments here from conservative loyalists. But listen, I understand why they'd be choked as well. I mean, they lose 4 MPs crossing the floor. They get swept in by-elections that, let's be honest, they didn't think they were going to win, and then we got commentators like you saying, well, this might be just the beginning of the floor crossings.
Well, it's going to be interesting to watch Quebec. And so I'm from Quebec, and I canvassed half a dozen people there who are former MPs, conservative strategists, former conservative strategists, people who know what's going on the ground. And they all pretty much said the same thing, which is that this is not the end. It's the beginning, perhaps, of the end for Pierre Poilievre, unless something really changes. But they think that there will be more floor crossing. And the people who might do that, it's not even that they'll cross the floor. It's probably more there's now an opening in the provincial scene there. The Liberal Party in Quebec is doing really well. They're neck and neck with the Parti Québécois. There's an election in the fall. So the thought is that they may be an attractive home for at least one of Quebec MPs, Dominique Vian, who's a former provincial Liberal cabinet minister. And so, could she be poached is the theory to go there and leave the conservative fold. There are a couple of other people MPs who might go independent. They wouldn't cross the floor, but the idea would be to send a signal to the party to the caucus to say, guess what? You got to now make the decision. Are you going to force a vote in caucus or have a vote on his leadership or not? And if there's a vote on the leadership, then Poilievre will have to decide, do I subject myself to the vote like Aaron O'Toole did? It did not end well for him. Or do I resign? Today, yesterday, rather, he said, I'm not going anywhere, basically. And you can't really blame him. He's devoted 3 years of his life to this project. And to see this kind of just evaporate into a Liberal majority with the Cheshire Cat prime minister must be really hard to take.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, politics is cruel, and right now the situation is very different than when he was, leading when Trudeau was still around.
Yeah, no kidding. I have a million follow-up questions for you. We're grateful you're here. By the way, I should clarify Tasha Kheiridden in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. The scenario with Pierre Poilievre is it's a tough one, I guess, for him for obvious reasons, because like 2 years ago, you're sitting there like basically taking the measurements for new drapes in the office, right? And now you're seeing not just MPs leaving, but now having to these sort of like pesky questions. It's like a professional athlete when there's rumors that they want to be traded or they might not re-sign, and every single time there's a microphone in front of them, that's like the first or the second question. Like at some point, it's going to drive him bonkers. But what it also does, I think, in a challenging way for him and his team, is it just reiterates to everybody watching, reiterates to Canadians that that's all anybody's thinking about on Parliament Hill is like, what's next for Pierre Poilievre? That's tough to combat that.
Yeah, I think they're thinking what's next for the party, and he's obviously part of that, but a big part of that. But they've got 3 years now. So this is the thing. One of the people I spoke to yesterday, Rudy Husney in Quebec, who's a former, actually, I think he ran for the leadership briefly of the party at one of the leadership iterations, and he said, it's basically that the time is the enemy. The party, there's no longer this sense of urgency of a potential election, which is a reason to keep Poilievre there. You don't want to change horses when you could be at the polls next week, but now that's gone. So the party's looking at 3 long years in opposition. All those people on the backbench going, okay, what do we do here? What's it going to be next time? They have 3 years to allow people to develop themselves as potential candidates in caucus, have a leadership election, have the winner, the new leader, make themselves known to the country. Like, there's 3 years for this to do this. Are they going to sit around with Poilievre for 3 years until the next election rolls around? If there's more floor crossers or people quitting the caucus, I think he won't be there anymore. And I'm not the only columnist to say that. Brian Lilly had a piece too, saying that, it's like the runways, it's running out of runway here. And again, it's unfortunate for him, but at the same time, things are so different with Trump there, Trudeau gone, the desire people have for security, and the fact that the Liberals were able to attract people like Marilyn Gladue. I mean, Marilyn Gladue, like, she was a Poilievre leadership supporter. She was a convoy supporter. She was all the things the Liberals, decried. And now she's in the Liberal family, which the Liberals, by the way, Carney's challenge is going to be keeping everyone there feeling like they're still one happy family. And right now they're bound together by love of power, hatred of Trump, and, a general desire to be part of the action, I think. the part of people who get things done in a time of crisis. That's a very attractive place to be. And I think for Marilyn Gladu, on a personal level, I think that probably factored in. She's been there since 2015 in opposition. That is not fun, right? This is her shot to do something more. And, maybe she's also at the end of a political cycle or career. What does she do next? If she wants an appointment, you ain't going to get it unless you're friends with the government. Let's be really blunt. And I think that that's not something that people don't calculate as MPs as well, to say, what's coming next for me after politics? Do I want to stick around with the Conservatives? And if Poilievre had treated his people better, I don't think this would be happening, but he did not. And I think that is really, at the end of the day, this is a story about management and people skills more than anything else.
Denise, watching us on YouTube in our live chat, powered by Park Power, says MPs are responsible to their constituents, and if they can get a better deal in government, then cross the floor. I could tell.
You get more projects for your riding, I guess. That's a cynical way to look at it. I think it's also a personal thing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it is. And I could, was I reading it correctly? I felt like by your body language, that comment took a turn that you weren't expecting.
I wasn't expecting that. Because, you're right.
Because we have, I've probably got, 300 comments on my social media posts in the last couple of days from people. And I keep saying to them, I hear you. I get it. I understand. People that are like, why am I even voting anymore? This is bullshit. Mm-hmm. Why even support? Why knock doors? Why donate? The MPs are just doing whatever they want. And I totally get it. And also I get it when commentators like you, I won't put words in your mouth, but they've come on this show. We've had political that say, basically it's rules of engagement and deal with it because it's not changing.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, we live in unprecedented times. And I think that was the reason Carney got elected. He was elected to be the Trump whisperer, the person who could deal with Trump. Trump is looming larger every day in people's consciences. When you go to fill up your car, your truck, there you go. It's like Trump, you think about it, because the prices are all up, and every day he does something else that gets in the news. He's one day he's himself, next day he's Jesus Christ. I mean, it's where do you go with this? It's impossible to erase him from the public consciousness. And so because of that, Carney's got material to work with until Trump is gone. So, for the opposition parties, it's very hard. The NDP has it the easiest right now, ironically.
Go on.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know Avi Lewis. I worked with him at CBC 25 years ago. Scary to say.
Wow.
But I was producing a show that he was the host of, and he's a great person. I like Avi on a personal level. Absolutely. I disagree with him on pretty much everything he believes in.
Yeah.
He's very far left. But he comes at it from a place of conviction. He really believes these things. I can tell you that. He's not posturing. He's always held those views. And those views right now have an audience because there's an opening on the left. Carney has moved to the right. He is governing from the center, but with the conservative light, going half measure on policies the conservatives want, like removing the excise tax, but not the full the GST as well on gas, removing the consumer carbon tax, not the industrial one. Like, he does things enough to make people happy. But on the left, the really hardcore environmentalists are not happy. They look at, his MOU with Alberta, and they're like, wait a minute. And he's the speeding up major projects approvals, and they're like, wait a minute. So those people they may go NDP. The Greens, I think Avi could cannibalize them. So Carney's got this foil on the left, and he's got a foil on the right, but it's, for him, like most people look at both foils, and the average person goes, no, thank you. I'll stay with Carney. So I think he's sitting pretty for about 3 years.
Yeah, I don't want to sort of suggest that. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's sort of like a character check or a comment I'm making here, but I would just say the way I'm wired, at least this is my personal opinion, to convince me to leave a majority government, even if I'm the furthest. I mean, if I'm in the back corner on the back bench, which actually you could make the argument is a pretty sweet place to be. If you don't want a cabinet portfolio, I mean, the fact it's never lost on me. As nerdy as I watch politics all the time. I read everything you write. I listen to all the podcasts. I do all the stuff, and then every once in a while I'll see some like Quebec or Ontario or, no offense, like a New Brunswick campaign. And I'm just
none taken.
Who the hell is that guy? But anyway, the point is to leave a majority government and to go sit with like the NDP with 6 seats. I don't know. I guess it would be a matter of great character, but people are saying Guilbeault might do it. Do you think he might?
So Guilbeault is an interesting one. He has been rumored to actually, well, there's two MPs that are considering perhaps a provincial role in Quebec. One is André Boulris of the NDP. André Boulris is considering running for the leadership of Quebec Solidaire, which is the completely left-wing party in Quebec. And if he does that, I mean, you have to do that. The election's in the fall. It's October 26th or something. They have to have an election. So, if he does that, the decision would come soon, and there'd be a space. The NDP would be down one person. What would happen in his riding? His riding is not necessarily. It's not going to go NDP after him. I don't think so. It would be again the Bloc Liberals, right, fighting it out. But Guilbeault's an interesting one, and I don't know if he leaves, if he'd go NDP, or if he'd just leave politics altogether and do something environmental again, which he had done before. Because going to be second banana to Avi Lewis, I don't know if character-wise, I don't know if those two would get along, to be honest. Guilbeault is very prickly. And so, I mean, maybe. But
you also, sorry, I don't mean to step on your toes.
Yeah. It's okay. I think that what I see less migration to the NDP of MPs as voters, right, and supporters and people. So they may go up in the polls, and the Greens will go down. I think that might be a place where Avi can get people. But and disgruntled Liberals, really hardcore environmentalists. But this will take time too. It's not going to happen overnight. It depends what Carney does. If the pipeline gets approved and shovels hit the ground, and you get protests and environmentalists chaining themselves to trees in BC, okay, well then, he'll capitalize on that, but wait till that happens, right?
Yeah, and I guess maybe even I don't know if I say a warning to Carney, that might be a little sensational, but we've seen a Liberal prime minister in recent memory spend tens of billions on a pipeline through Alberta and through BC and get absolutely zero credit for it. So you kind of, I don't know, you kind of wonder there if the juice is worth the squeeze for the federal government. I don't sense an appetite from this prime minister to dump billions of dollars into a new pipeline project. They're just more saying that they'll look to cooperate, right, on approval.
Well, they will, but they have to lift the tanker ban off BC, right? That's federal responsibility, and BC does not want that to happen. EB's been very clear. If you're gonna ship oil there, it's got to leave the coast, and it's got to go in tankers. And if you have a ban on tanker travel, you have a problem. You cannot get it to market. So there's things that would have to happen. And I think Carney, he was a very big environmental guy before he became prime minister. He was head of green finance advisor for the UN at Brookfield. He championed many green finance projects. So he's got, I think, in the back of his mind too, those sort of ideas. They're still there, but the climate's not right for them, right? So right now they're in abeyance. But if he got a second majority, in 3 years, well, maybe things will change and he'd go there to that greener pasture. I don't know. But right now, he's got to renegotiate CUSMA. And he's got to worry about your referendum, Ryan, in fall. That's on his mind too. And that's, I think, why he's playing nice with Alberta on the MOU and other things, because nobody wants that. At least he doesn't. And when I say nobody, it's like the Liberals. Nobody wants that. They don't want Western alienation to bubble over to that extent.
Do you get the sense, we talked to the team at Pilara last week, and we've been digging into some of those numbers. They people can check out our most recent episodes. They determined, based on their polling, can you tell I even don't want to say it out loud, because part of me is quit pouring gas on the fire, but I also believe sunshine is the best disinfectant in this case. So, but the point is, they're saying that their polling shows that separatist sentiment in Alberta at a 5-year high. They say around 27%, but they say up to 40% of respondents say that they would vote to send a message to Ottawa. What jumps out at you from that?
Well, having been through 2 referenda in Quebec, and that same sort of sense of, there's a whole party in Quebec that constantly sends a message to Ottawa. It's the Bloc Québécois, right? And Quebecers vote for it. They don't want to separate. This is the thing. It's exactly that thing. It's there's about 25% hardcore separates in Quebec. But you get a higher number. They poll higher for the Bloc and for the PQ. Why? Because people want to send a message, and it's Alberta strong, Quebec strong, right? It's a way to extort things, let's be honest, from the federal government, because politically you don't want to have to deal with a true separatist situation. It is bad for investment. It breeds insecurity. Nobody wants to park their money if they don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And there's always a risk if there's a separatist movement that things will go sideways. So, Carney does not like risk. He's a banker. He knows the impact of that. So he wants to damp this down. So he's playing, like I said, playing nice to Alberta, MOU, other deals he's going to probably make. And I think that's how he's going to play it. It's the best hand he has. And if the separatists get too extreme in Alberta as well, if they get too close to the U.S. and if there's a sense of foreign interference in the campaign, I think that's going to turn people off. And I think there already is foreign interference with their trips to Washington. I think, clearly there's folks down there who see this as a way to crack Canada open. It's like a nutcracker. It's like, we could start over here, or just like, or pry it open. Don't give them that satisfaction. That's going to be one of the arguments of people who say we want Alberta to stay in Canada. They'll say this is a play by the U.S. Don't give them that opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. And I see it and I feel it here in our home province of Alberta. Like the idea around, this kind of like braggadocious, like these proclamations that, the separatists are coming back.
Oh, the AI pictures. There's one. I hate these. I'm sorry. These AI generate. If you can't find people to be in your ads, I'm sorry. I know everyone does it with AI, but honestly, in this case, you should be able to find real Albertans, not these little manufactured pictures of people with hats like you see there.
Yeah, fair enough. The the AI image generators are working overtime for Alberta separatism, that's for sure. But the parallel conversations, they're saying we're meeting with the U.S. State Department and senior officials. They won't say where, they won't say what, but they're making these wild promises. We talked about a $500 billion infusion from the Americans to help with the transition. Nobody's going to pay income tax. And then you've got the Canadian delegation renegotiating CUSMA and the international trade deal. These two things happening at the same time. I just think, for a thinking person, for a person with the ability to discern, sort of like logical, reasonable thought, for like a person that has sort of the adult developed brain, it's pretty easy to see. You can tell how I feel about this.
Person who listens to your show.
Person who listens to my show. Our key demographic, Tash.
Yeah.
It's two stories you can't ignore. These two parallel things happening. In the one, it's like, the separation delegation. It's an enemy of the state. It is.
Yeah, well, there is an element of that, absolutely. But people have to tread carefully. In Quebec, it was also seen as, previous Quebec leaders went to France to seek support for Quebec. We're going back 40 years here, but Charles de Gaulle, vive le Québec libre, when he came and visited Canada. There's been interference and appeals for assistance, moral, if not to other countries before for separatist movements in Canada. The issue here, though, is that unlike France, which was never going to, invade Greenland or Canada or whatever, or talk about annexation or anything like that, the U.S. president does. So it's a bit different. Now, some people in Alberta like that. They like MAGA. They would like to be part of the U.S. There is legitimately, I think, a number of people who feel that way there as well. So you're dealing with some people who will be totally on board with that. But I think most people will not. Polls show most people do not have a positive view of Donald Trump and his politics. So associating yourself with that is a negative.
Yeah. Goramu in our live chat powered by Park Power says no real Albertans are separatists, only astroturfers and lead paint eaters. Okay. We don't encourage calling of names, but
do we still have lead paint? Okay.
Do we? I mean, I don't know. We had I won't get into the story.
Yeah, it's fine.
We had Max Fawcett on the other day, and he's talking about how, he's basically saying like Alberta's kind of like sleepwalking. I don't want to mischaracterize. He didn't say sleepwalking towards separation, but he was basically like, when is the pro-Canada crowd going to wake up and start doing something about this outside of, respectfully, what Thomas Lukaszuk has done, which is a ton of heavy lifting. And if that's the official movement, then so be it. And people can, contribute their efforts there. And then the Alberta NDP has launched something as well, which in my mind raises some red flags. You don't want this to become a partisan thing. Your eyebrows just hit the ceiling. So, and then I just wanted to make a point. So I tweet about this, or on X, I say I agree with Max. Alberta's future, Canada's future, far too important to sit back while separatists put it at risk. Time to take action, I say, which has triggered a bunch of right-wing snowflakes who are suggesting that I'm threatening violence. My time to take action. I'm threatening violence, Tasha. But anyway, so here's the response that jumped out at me, though. J.J. McCullough, pretty well-known conservative commentator, writes for Washington Post and has a huge YouTube channel. He says there's no separatists. It's one guy. What do you think?
Well, it's more than one guy. It's the group. Progress Alberta.
Alberta
right?
Prosperity Project.
Prosperity. Sorry. Yeah. They there's a couple of guys that went down to Washington. So it was two guys. No, I think Carney's got to walk the line between not overblowing this, but also not belittling it, because people don't want to be belittled. If you start belittling people, then other people will get offended. They're like, well, even if they're not on board with these folks. And that's been the challenge. It was a challenge in Quebec as well, right? There was a moment when there was a whole section of women in Quebec who were derided by one of the leaders of the Quebec Yes forces back in the 70s as Yvettes, like women who vote with their husband,
right?
A typical Yvette, right? And boy, the women got mad, and that helped switch it to a no vote, right? So if you get a constituency mad, whether it's province, whether it's gender, whatever, by insulting them, you run the risk that it's just gonna flip because they're mad at you for doing that.
Hey, so we should bring this full circle, because I love what you've done here in your piece on the Terrebonne riding and everything else. You've named names. So let's wrap with you knew I was going here. Tasha, we called this interview the Floor Crossing Forecaster, so you got to give us something. But
okay.
So Joël Godin, Richard Martel, Eric Lefebvre, and Dominique Vienne. Take us into this.
Okay, so there are 4 names there that are being circulated, and so we'll start with Dominique Vienne. She was a former Quebec Liberal cabinet minister. And that was in the Charest government and the Couillard government. And she then went federal, and she's been sitting in the backbench and federally in the opposition for a few years now, I think 2021. And so speculation is she's going to be asked to join the Quebec Liberal Party, again, come back. Their election is this fall, like I said. And that might be something interesting for her to do. Joël Godin, speculation is he won't cross the floor because he's just too scared of the blowback. The other 2 that you mentioned there, the speculation is that they may actually just sit as independents. Why? To send a message, because the message would be get a vote going. It's basically, I'll say shit or get off the pot caucus, and ask Monsieur Poilievre either to go or stay. And the sending the message piece is also partly because the result in Terrebonne, the Conservatives went from 18% to 3. Their vote just cratered. That's a bad sign. Any Quebec MP who wants to win next time around is thinking, under the Conservative banner, it not happening for me. So maybe we need to change things up. So again, MPs are worried about themselves too. They're people.
Yeah.
They worry about their job security. That's part of this. And so that's why I think the Terrebonne by-election is so significant for what could happen for the party next.
Amazing job covering it. Do you? I'm just applying my own personal thought as we thank you for your time. It seems insane to me to cross the floor but not cross to go leave and sit as an independent.
Well, then you can come back. Oh no, it's not insane. Ryan, it's not insane if you don't want to be, and you don't want to risk the wrath of some of your constituents too, like Gladue has. I mean,
sure.
They're going back there and people are really mad. But if some of these people are calculating also, the Conservative family in Quebec is pretty tight, I'll tell you. People, it's got a long history. It's going back to Brian Mulroney. These folks know each other, and they don't, they're friends with people who. It's a whole thing. We all know each other. Say we all do, and it's a sense of disloyalty to that idea. Liberal is also in Quebec. There's 2 liberal parties, federal and provincial, but they are distinct entities. So, Conservative going to the Liberals provincially is not a big deal, but Conservative going to Liberal federally, big deal.
Yeah, huge deal. Thank you for the work that you do, helping us regular folks understand the mechanism of government and what it all means for us. We've been talking to national political commentators Tasha Kheiridden. You can also find her Substack, by the way. We'll link to all of it in the show notes. Again, great coverage and nice to see your face. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
You got
Bye,
it.
Ryan.
You got it. Tasha, I should mention in the intro, I kind of just roll in casually all the time, but we worked together for a long time in terrestrial radio. I've always enjoyed her takes. I can't, the idea, I mean, she obviously knows way more about Quebec's politics than me. I'm just saying, generally speaking, it would feel like, and this is the way I'm wired, John, from time to time, I have been wrong before, but I would feel to leave the official opposition Conservatives and not cross over to the Liberals, but to sit as an independent, you've not technically across the floor, but you could be perceived as kind of leaving or, kind of like, it's like in wartime, if someone were to like turn around and walk away from the front line kind of idea.
That's I don't know.
No, but I'm being a little bit dramatic. I'm actually being very dramatic. But do you know what I mean? It's like there, on one hand you got the MPs, conservative MPs that are like number one, the solidarity, like Pierre's our guy. Pierre,
of course, yeah.
87%,
and they were all on the same.
And then you've got some that'll be like, we need to better listen to Canadian. Maybe they'll sort of like look to inspire greatness within the party, to inspire, but they're there proudly. They're going to wear their conservative lapel pin, or they're going to make sure that they're, being very clear that they support the leader. You've got the full-blown floor crosser on the other side that says, I've seen enough, I'm out of here. And I'm willing to take, I thought it was interesting that Tasha made that point. I think it was Joelle Godin. She said doesn't want the blowback, doesn't want to do it. That is a thing. And I don't think, floor crossing ain't easy in some ridings. I would hate to see, right? Well, imagine what, like Matt Generu, for example, he's not shared this with me, but I would imagine there were some text messages and some DMs that probably weren't the most gracious when he crossed as a conservative in Alberta to the Liberals. But I don't know, the move to sit as an independent, I would just feel like within caucus or like within the party, it's not like everyone's going to be like thrilled to see you come back. I mean, you might have a hard time getting the nomination in your riding the next time there's an election because what are the optics? The optics are you left us high and dry. You pursued your own headline. You did something to booster, or bolster, I should say, your own political career, the value of your own name in the political spectrum, as opposed to the parties. I don't know. I think it would. I don't know. This is just my opinion. Feels like it'd be a weird move to leave the party and sit as an independent with like,
sure, Well, we're here for your opinion. Ryan.
Well, maybe if you had, but we talked a lot about the value that Elizabeth May had, for example.
Sure.
When you remember, like when Carney's budget was there and they needed like every single vote like really counted, and that definitely is still the case. It'll be less of a factor the bigger the majority gets, if the majority gets bigger. But like you're in a position of real power as Elizabeth May. If they need that one vote, you got that one vote, right? That's powerful. An independent can hold that power. If you're not in that position, you're sitting as an independent. There's a majority government. You're really not, like, if anything, you've surrendered party resources, you've surrendered staff, you've surrendered financial resources. I don't know. It's tough to get attention as an independent in provincial and federal politics.
100%. And then just going back to what you said, how conservatives were kind of all on the Poilievre train. I think, and one of our guests said this last week, a big thing was when he sent out that email, basically telling people to kind of reiterate why they're a benefit to the party and their position and whatever occupation they have within the Conservative Party. Send me an email basically saying, why shouldn't we fire you? And I think that things like that, along with a bit of the tone of just overall Pierre's. Well, I mean, there was a couple weeks there. We were talking about it yesterday where things kind of changed. And it's just, I think Tasha said it best too. Like, if you're someone sitting there thinking, hey, I might be able to do more as an independent for my constituents instead of sitting here for 3 years and just arguing, you might be inclined to do that instead. But we don't see a lot of that. It's hard to be an independent.
Erica is watching our live stream presented by California Closets on YouTube. Erica, thank you for your YouTube membership. She says, bound together by the love of power. She says that line kind of just slipped through the interview, but it's so profound. It encapsulates the floor crossers' mentality and character perfectly. Tony with an interesting point. Tony says, she goes, I don't know if the MPs that left their parties to cross formed their own little voting bloc. Just think of the power that they could have yielded. I mean, for sure. Tony, as a thought exercise, love it. The crossings obviously were sort of like over a period of time. So you've got, people in different situations, Chris D'Entremont, Michael Ma right around the holiday season, Matt Generu early in the new year. And then of course you've got Laurie Idlut about a month after that, maybe 2 months after that. You'd have just as much power as the NDP basically, right? For now. Lauren's making a fair point as well. Lauren says, you're leaving the leader, not the party, right? If you leave to sit as an independent, could be potential, a short-term type situation. at least till the next election. Tracy says becoming an independent can be a voting strategy, but not the best career move. She says our parliamentary system does not favor independence. Dwayne just checking in. Dwayne, you're not alone. Says, just personally, I think floor crossing should be outlawed. Says, I hate it. Lorraine says, well, maybe their constituents are happy they crossed, especially in ridings that were really close, right? Support for the Conservatives is going down, down, down. RS says going independent may also be a shout out, replace the leader and I'll return. 100%. Shauna says, I vote for the person. So floor crossing is not an issue until the next election. I think that's an interesting perspective. A lot of people say you vote for the person, not the party. I mean, some people, including Shauna, that's the case. I think for a lot of other people, though, they're voting for the party. I don't know. It's a personal question, John. I'm not asking you how you vote, like who you voted for, but when you vote.
Oh, I voted green.
When you vote, do you vote for person or party?
I know people are going to think I'm lying, but I do vote for person. Person and what's going on at the time. I mean, I might be inclined to vote. I mean, I think people know just listening to the show that I lean left and that, but like if somebody, if there was a period in time when I thought the person fit the mold, that the puzzle piece was the best piece, and the other one that I voted for, the party that I may have voted for the last time, it was more jamming that puzzle piece in and it didn't fit quite as well, I would be inclined. And I also, I think this is for young people too as well. And it's something you see with MAGA. It's something you see with other political parties here in Canada. I mean, it's a lot about the vibe. It's the vibe of the leader. It's the vibe of your MP. Yeah. If they get out there and give you the heebie-jeebies, if every word they say kind of sends a chill down your spine, if you look at them and it looks like they're reading a script, if you think they're disingenuine, if what they're saying, I don't know, if they talk the talk but they don't walk the walk, I think especially young people are just kind of like, they don't really care about party these days. I mean, some of them do. Yeah. But like, for me, it's a vibe. I look at them and like right now, I can say that when I looked at, I thought Pierre Poilievre at a time before Mark Carney emerged was probably the best bet that we had to get the country back on track, right? Because Justin had used up his time. There was no supplementary person to come in. But now, I mean, we saw it in the by-elections. I mean, people resoundingly, maybe they didn't even vote for the MPs in that. They're just sending a message. Like, we were feeling a little more safer. We're feeling a little more calmer. Is everything perfect? No, but Mark Carney is... Somebody commented on Twitter the other day when we said this, but not Mr. Right, but Mr. Right now.
Yeah, for a lot of people. Marie says, I voted for the person when I voted for Mark Carney. But Marie, like Marie's always sharing her takes with us. Marie, a proud rural Albertan, right? Marie, if I remember correctly. So like, you didn't vote for Mark Carney, right? You voted for Mark Carney's candidate in your riding, so you voted for the party, right? I mean, I'm not trying to turn this into something profound
no, you're right.
exercise.
You're right.
But I think like I'll share this. I never like to talk about how I vote. I like to keep the mystique. But I have voted for, in the same riding, in my same federal riding, I have voted for two different federal parties based on the candidate. So I guess I vote for the person. But at the same time, I wouldn't rule out not voting for the person because I dislike the leader of their party. So for me, I'm honestly, and I don't know if this would surprise people or if you would expect this, but I'm sometimes like a game time decision, You
are?
I've had moments where...
But I get that. Like,
I've had moments, I'm dead serious, where, and I know that this is crazy. It sounds crazy, but I'm just telling you guys the truth. This is real talk. I've had moments where I'm showing up to do my duty, to participate in the democratic exercise, and I'm not like, I've got a pretty good idea who I'm going to vote for, but I have had moments in my career as an adult, in my voting experience, like from 18 to 49, so like 30 years, not every election, but I've had times where I'm like, in the polling station, I'm like, okay, who's it going to be?
And you just flip a coin.
No, I don't flip a coin, but I have voted begrudgingly before.
Sure.
I have voted, feeling that I'm voting for like, kind of the lesser evil of the two candidates. Like, I'm not saying I've never been like a real flag waving, chest pounding, party supporting kind of a guy.
Isn't it always a lesser like, name a time when there was like a federal leader or an MP that you were like, oh, this person is perfect for me. There's always like pros and cons, and you make a list. But I get it what you're saying, and I think that's why I said I think it depends on the time and what's going on in the country and what's going on in your community and how the general vibe of the nation at the time. And that's why I think Mark Carney, the popularity is happening right now.
Yeah.
But like, I totally agree that sometimes people vote for MPs that they absolutely despise just because of the federal leader.
100%. Yeah.
But I like to believe that there's people out there who are like, this person isn't right for my area of the country and vote the right way. But I can totally see what you're saying. Obviously, when things are this dire, when things are so important, worldwide, you're going to go with...
People are motivated. People are motivated to vote right now.
The big seat.
Absolutely. Marie follows up, by the way. She says, yeah, you're right, Jespo, fine, but I voted for Mark Carney. And Marie, I get it. Like, what was our short titled yesterday? Make sure you follow us on all social channels, guys. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate it. That's where you can see our shorts and our highlights. And I think the one yesterday was called Carney Changes Everything. I think it works on a number of levels, by the way. Carney Changes Everything. But that's the idea. Like, voters like Marie across the country going, Mark Carney's our guy. Who's their local candidate? I'm going to support their local candidate. Or vice versa, right? Or vice versa. This is hilarious from Tweeting Trucker. Great to see you in our YouTube chat. Says, my own mother was a politician. Were she running for Pierre Poilievre's party? I wouldn't vote for her. He has to go. Tweeting Trucker. Wouldn't even vote for his own mom. We've got a great email here. I want to get to this in a second from Scott in Sherwood Park. Writes in about Avi Lewis. I thought it was interesting. Tasha Kheiridden brought him up. I wanted to get to that. I promised Scott that I would read his email at some point, and we want to get to that. Plus, you have to see some of the comments. You saw the comments on my post about Alberta separation, and people are just like losing their damn minds.
I think it's amazing the contrast in social media platforms, though, because if you go on Instagram, if you go on Facebook, they're kind of back and Facebook's a little worse, but I mean, there were some YouTube comments. I checked in yesterday. I was like, have you seen these? So I think they need to be read. Not that they're all extreme, but it's like you said, people are fired up.
Oh, it's just it's almost for my pure entertainment.
People are fired up and they think you're a paid liberal informant.
Which is ridiculous. And this perspective
because
is presented by the Liberal Party of Canada and Mark Carney, and you can learn more. No, I'm just
we'd be wearing so much more jewelry, guys.
We'd be wearing so much.
We'd be blinged out.
We would have gone to Marilyn Gladou's stylist, and we would have said, "Drape us in red."
We would have been at the convention.
If you look at Marilyn Gladou's fashion through the years, there's certain there's certain MPs, and I really like this. It's like the sort of the little accoutrement that shows. You'll see like Scott Bryson, I think, as an example, is one that off the top of my head, and I can think of others. Pierre Trudeau came up earlier this day, but you look at Naheed Nenshi is another example where Nenshi would always have like his little touch of purple, whether it was a pocket square or like cufflinks or something, and the sense of style. Mm-hmm. And I've just been. Almost, I still haven't wrapped my head around the Marilyn Gladou floor crossing, and just looking at how much blue she used to wear and how much red she's wearing now. It's like that is a.
It was off-putting.
Her clothier had a big month.
She went to the closet and she went to her assistant. She said, get rid of all the blue.
This feels like a good time to mention the Helm Clothing at thehelmclothing.com. If you need to turn your wardrobe around. Listen, no, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Sorry for triggering our in-studio band. They were ready to go. But I will say this. It is Wednesday. And every Wednesday, courtesy of our incredible friends at Tourism Jasper, we step out to the mountains and remind you of the memories that lie in wait. Don't worry, we'll be back to talking politics in 3 minutes. But right now, we want to tell you how you can best fill your lungs with fresh mountain air. It's an incredible season to be out in Jasper. Of course, spring is springing?
Has sprung.
But it's an active. It's not a past.
Once it starts springing, it has sprung, Ryan.
Spring has sprung. And that means perfect conditions, of course, at Marmot Basin, for example. It means that the wildlife are out, the new babies are arriving, and it means, my friends, that the Jasper SkyTram is opening up. As a matter of fact, as we live stream this update. And as we release this podcast, they'll have just fired up the Jasper SkyTram. John, it opens today. That is the 15th of April.
Wait.
This is honestly, people that haven't done this, you're going to hear some enthusiasm in my voice because we do this as a family all the time. I love it. Sometimes if I'm out there with my buddies, we'll hike up and then we'll take the tram down. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. You can check out JasperSkyTram.com to learn more. But this is your chance to like soar to the upper station. You're going to be greeted with absolutely stunning views from the cafe and the outer boardwalk. Oh yeah, by the way, the cafe, like try the soup. I'm not joking. It's phenomenal up there. They've got a little bookstore. They've got a gift shop. I love it. This is an elevation of nearly 2,300 meters, so it's just under 7,500 feet, and it offers panoramic views. I love that photo that you've chosen there, John. That's incredible. If you're listening to this on the podcast, check it out on YouTube, or just Google the Jasper SkyTram for that matter. You can check out their website. Panoramic views of Jasper's landscape, plus there's opportunities to hike even higher, which is really neat, along that Tundra Trail Network. This is a really cool way to do it, by the way. So you get up there and then you can go even a little bit further, whether that's a photo op or you just like to see Jasper a little bit differently. It truly is a special way to spend a couple of hours. Now, they rent snowshoes, which is great. You can hit that trail to the summit. Those are available until mid-May. And they've got a new family-friendly promo as well, which is really, really cool for 2026. So for the first 2 hours of every day, kids fly free. Isn't that cool? So one child admitted free with every regular priced adult. You can't combine it with any other offer, but that's just a really great incentive, I think, to get the family out there as well. And then once there, kids can take part, and they have that Rockies Rangers program. I'm showing you here the website as well. The Tourism Jasper has some great resources here, but they've got like complete activities, right? So the kids can complete activities as part of that Rockies Rangers program. They earn badges. Did you ever earn, a kid earning a badge is a big deal.
Like Scouts?
Yeah, kind of. But you're a Rockies Ranger. Ooh. You can sew that onto your backpack, sew it onto your coat. Maybe your, maybe your hiking gear. I kind of like that idea. That's pretty cool. These are for guests 16 and under, and they've got field guides available for 3 different age groups. So there's a ton of different ways to experience this. Check out the live webcam, by the way. You want to look at this. I love it's just doing a constant scan of the park, and so this is a live look right now. And then if you go in or out, Johnny, you can like zoom in or out on the webcam, which is super cool. So you can like check in on the town site. You can check it. I mean, you almost basically get like a full-time snow report. You can also check out Marmots for that too. But a really cool way to get excited about your upcoming trip to Jasper and to plan your adventure on the Jasper SkyTram. We would love to see your photos or video of the SkyTram when you and your family check it out. Make sure you hashtag on Instagram, on X, MyJasper and Real Talk RJ, and your family's memories could be featured in a future edition of MyJasper Memories, proudly presented by our friends at Tourism Jasper. Now I can think about us getting back out on that Jasper SkyTram. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Some cherished memories there. Again, jasper.travel for more, jasperskytram.com to plan your trip. So we get this email from Scott in Sherwood Park. Love the handle, Scott, and a shout out to Sherwood Park. talk@ryanjesperson.com is where he sends it. And the subject line immediately jumped out at us. Who is Avi Lewis, and why are some so quick to judge him?
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
So he says, Jespo, I think there's a lot of confusion. And I thought it was interesting. This Tasha's comment about him. She goes, I worked with him for a long time. She goes, he's very personable. She says, very likable. And we disagree on everything. Scott says, there's a lot of confusion, I think, about Avi Lewis as the new leader of the federal NDP. And he says, and I think a lot of that confusion stems from the LEAP manifesto. But that is only one part of who he is and what he's done. Scott says, Avi Lewis comes from a deeply rooted NDP family, to say the least, right, Scott? Says he's the grandson of former federal leader David Lewis, the son of longtime Ontario NDP leader Stephen Lewis, who just passed away, of course, a short time ago. Says Avi became widely known in the early 90s as a VJ on Much Music, gaining national attention when he challenged Prime Minister Jean Chrétien over proclaiming the NAFTA agreement. He later hosted Counterspin on CBC before moving into documentary filmmaking. Scott says, in my view, his best work is his film, The Take. It's about factory workers in Argentina who took control of their workplace when ownership threatened to shut it down. Scott says it's a really powerful doc, and I would highly recommend it to anybody who hasn't seen it. He says while he has more recently been associated with environmental activism, that's only one dimension of a career that has spanned decades in both Canada and the U.S., and reducing him solely to that work does not provide a fair or a complete picture. Scott says for those who are quick to judge, I would suggest taking the time to watch his documentaries, do some research, learn more about the full scope of his career before drawing conclusions. Scott says during his campaign launch last fall, he had the opportunity to reach out to Avi. Says I actually picked him up at the airport in Edmonton. Wow. Says I learned a great deal from our time together, and I'd gladly have a beer with him anytime again. That from Scott in Sherwood Park. Avi's a very likable guy. He was in, we interviewed sort of the three front runners, or as we perceived him. It didn't work out that way. Turns out we interviewed vote getters 1, 2, and 4. Once the federal leadership race was all said and done, kind of blew that one. But I digress. We do our best. But when Avi Lewis joined us in studio, I would say, wouldn't you say, like he showed up, he was earlier than expected, dressed casually, hanging out in the green room, having some laughs, sharing some stories, asking questions about, our studio here in the historic Mercer Warehouse in downtown Edmonton. A very likable guy. And then he's got some ideas that some people are going to think are bang on, especially in tough economic times, with like rising grocery prices as an example, public-owned grocery stores. And other people think it is just batshit crazy. And so Avi Lewis, I would say, like to Scott for sure, if you want to seek to understand more what makes him tick, I mean, I would never say don't read his books, don't watch his documentaries. Obviously, dive into it, dig into it, learn more. You're going to learn the most about how he's wired now or what's most relevant by what he's going to say and what he's going to try to introduce or implement to get himself into the House, to get the NDP on everybody's radar, and to like make meaningful moves on things like affordability, housing insecurity, and all the other things that have typically prompted people to look to the NDP in past. Pharmacare, dental care, everything else.
Yes.
Like help out the average person, and we'll see how Avi Lewis does that. That's how I think you'll get the most accurate sense of what's making him tick right now.
And we'll just see if the plan is there, because a lot of things he says I agree with. Like even the stuff that it may be out there for a lot of people, like the government-owned grocery stores or whatever. Like the intent there is good. Groceries are expensive. Certain chains are monopolizing and pushing costs up. We know that because we've eliminated carbon tax. We're about to eliminate more fuel tax, which should, in theory, this is what people have been talking about for 5, 6, 7, a decade. If the truckers and everyone else pay less for gas and fuel, your groceries will cost less. Well, we're seeing that that's not happening. So I agree with the intent on most of the things Avi and the NDP say. It's the way we go about it and the plan that I'm kind of iffy on. So I think he needs to improve a bit there. But I mean, I think you said it best when he's in here. He's a smart guy. He's likable. He's friendly. He's approachable. I honestly think, other than I think you have your own opinion. Like, who other than Avi do you think would have been a better fit? I know we're not here to tear him down.
I mean, I don't say I don't really care.
I think he's Mr. Right Now again, for them.
I mean, Heather McPherson, is a reputable and an MP working in earnest. Her name popped up. If you saw with Sean Strickland yesterday, we were talking to Sean from Canada's Building Trades Unions. Really interesting conversation, on the evolution and the changing face of Canada's trades. I had no idea. If you missed that interview, Real Talkers, check it out. It's right after our chat with Shannon and Ken and Tyler in our most recent episode. But the average apprentice on a job site, in particular like the building trades, right? But the average apprentice today in Canada is a decade older than a generation ago. In other words, like 30 years ago, the average apprentice on a job site was like 18, 19 years old. The average apprentice today, 27, which kind of blew me away. But Heather's name popped up in that conversation, she's got a private members bill where they're looking to basically limit the power of like company unions. And Sean gave his take, prompted by a Real Talker that had asked in our chat what he thought about that. I think Heather's like reputable, but again, like I can't say I did like a super deep dive. I think
no. And Rocky I thought would have been good, but she doesn't want it. Like I just think again.
Oh, Rocky Pancholi. I don't think, you know what? I think the only move that Rocky Pancholi would have. Listen, I got to be careful on this. Because
that's why I wanted to glaze.
Rocky's a personal friend, and she has rightfully contacted me a couple of times to clarify when the Real Talk rumor mill has invoked her name. Okay. So I'll say that she's very proactive on that, and I think that she was concerned that some rumors could spiral out of control and obviously could cause some problems for her as deputy leader of the provincial NDP, the Alberta NDP here. But there were some rumblings that Rocky Pancholi may have been considering running for the federal Liberals in Matt Generou's riding. That's not happening. No. Matt Generou's a Liberal. That's not happening. There was also the Real Talk rumor mill was reporting, and I think rightfully so, that former Edmonton City Councillor and former Edmonton mayoral candidate Michael Walters was looking at that spot. And the rumor was that Tim Cartmel, a former mayoral candidate, was looking at the Conservative nomination for that. But it doesn't matter now because Matt Generou's not going anywhere.
By the way, you can sign up to be part of the Real Talk Rumor Mill if you become a member today via our YouTube channel. Go to our homepage, hit join, select the level of membership. If you're in the second or third tier, our VIPs and real dealers, you get in on our Discord, which now has 2 moderators. These guys, Justin
guys are doing
and
an amazing job.
who else?
Darren
are just killing it. There's sub chats now, so it's very well organized, and you can continue.
It's basically the Real Talk
conversation that Real Talk has all day long.
It's the Real Talk live chat 24/7, which is great. Also another benefit of those memberships, by the way, we won't spend too much time plugging it. We appreciate everybody that signs up. Sounds like people had a great time at Northwest Film Fest. We sent 20 of our supporters with guests, so we sent 40 people to the movies, and wanted to let you know we've confirmed this. I don't have the details yet. This is the pre-announcement announcement. We're going to be partnering with our friends at Edmonton Opera.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, to send a few of our supporters to check out Wagner's Siegfried. So that's going to be super cool. You can get your tickets now, by the way, edmontonopera.com. Yeah. Okay. Did you want to it feels like everything's kind of like good. Everybody's talking about good feelings. Did you want to sort of drag us back into the gutter? I wanted to touch on this for a second.
What?
Well, just this conversation we had with Max Fawcett on Alberta separation. You know what? How about we'll do that in a second. Before we do, let me remind, there's a couple of things, really important things that are happening right now. It's got to be on your radar. Number one, this is time sensitive. I'm going to make this quick. Here's my pitch. I want you to come play poker with me on the 16th of April. If you do well enough, you'll be playing on the 17th as well. And all of us together are going to support the Ben Stelter Foundation. We're looking to bring the Ben Stelter Center for Proton Therapy and Neuroscience to Edmonton, okay? This is the Hearts and Hands Poker Tournament. It goes down, if you're listening to us the day we're doing this, we're talking Thursday, April 16th, Friday, April 17th at the Pure Casino Yellowhead. It's $500 to buy in. All the proceeds are going to charity. $60,000 in cash and prizes, including a Breitling watch. How cool is that? And if you make the final table, every person at the final table, every player is going to get a custom champion ring. That's the coolest thing I've ever heard of. When it comes to public poker tournaments, you can register today. I would love to see you there. We get the action started at 6 p.m. sharp. On Thursday, the 16th of April. You can register today by visiting benstelterfoundation.com. A lot of people, you may not be thinking about this, about replacing your financial advisor, right? A lot of people aren't even thinking about that because why would you? You built trust over years of conversations and decisions, and that confidence in your advisor matters. But here's a question that's worth asking. What happens when your advisor decides to retire? For a lot of families, the advisor is the plan. And when that person steps away, it can mean sudden changes, unfamiliar faces, maybe decisions that you never expected to make. North Road Investment Council in Edmonton was designed to take that risk off the table. They're structured as a team. And so your financial plan's not dependent on any single individual. You also don't have to switch advisors to get started. North Road can work with you on a fee-only basis. Without moving assets, they don't disrupt your current setup, but they're going to help you build a plan that prepares you for what's ahead. And that's why professionals like engineers and architects and physicians and business owners who want clarity and confidence in complex financial lives are reaching out to North Road Investment Council. From retirement and tax planning to insurance, family education, digital risk management, everything coordinated into a strategy as your life moves along that path. Your financial life is a journey, and it deserves a team that's built for the long road ahead. If you're looking to learn more, I recommend that you reach out to Marshall and Carrie at the team at North Road Investment Council. I personally recommend them at northroadic.com. And we also wanted to remind you, this is the final day. John, it's the final chance to make a difference with the Full House Lottery. This is deadline day. People can check out fullhouse.ca. The final deadline is midnight Mountain Time tonight. So as we're streaming you live on YouTube, you've got 13 hours. By the time you see this, it's crunch time. This is your final chance to make a difference, and they do need your help, right? You can win big and change lives along the way. Somebody is going to win that $2.5 million dream home. Somebody's going to win the F-150 and the ski boat to pull behind it. Someone's going to win the dream reno, the dream backyard oasis. Someone's going to walk away with half of the 50-50 extra jackpot, which is currently well above $1.3 million. The winner takes half of that, plus the big bucks calendar and more, all in support of the Royal Alexandra and the University Hospital Foundations. Had the cardiac lead, by the way, the lead of the transplant program, the heart transplant program from the Mazinkowski on with us on our Monday episode this week, if you want to check that out. It's just, you talk to somebody who does heart transplants as a job, absolutely wild.
Insane.
That's fullhouse.ca to get your tickets today. So Max Fawcett joins us on that Monday. That was the same episode that we talked to the transplant surgeon, and we're talking about, Johnny, I can just play this from my screen here, but we're talking about this separation referendum that's looming in Alberta, and Max basically it was like sounding an alarm in a way, right? Wasn't it? I mean, Max basically says it's way too serious for people to play it safe. Here's what he said. We'll get to the comments in just a second.
I'm here in Calgary. I'm around business community leaders and civil society leaders who, can and should be doing more. And I know the conversations they're having with each other. And a lot of it is just, it's too careful. It's too cautious. They're keeping their powder dry. They don't want to ruffle any feathers. They don't want to upset the government. And it is way too serious for people to be playing it that safe. You look at the Polara data that you referenced there. It's dug into in my column. The headline numbers are 27% support, 63 oppose or 65 oppose. But if you push people on it and say, well, what about if you want to send a message to Ottawa, right? You hear that a lot. Well, we're going to send a message to Ottawa. Support goes into the 40s, and that's where things get really dangerous because you get complacent federalists combined with very animated, very motivated separatists. You get a ballot question that shifts away from sort of explicit separatism to, do you want to send Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau a message? And we could be in the exact same place that the British were in with Brexit, where the pointy foreheads, the tall foreheads didn't think it could happen, and then it happened. And they had to clean up the mess, and the mess cost billions of dollars, points off their GDP, massive economic opportunities. The stakes are way too high for people to be playing it as safe as they are.
That was Max Fawcett on our April the 13th episode of the show. And I post what I thought was a pretty normal take. I said, I agree with Max. Alberta and Canada's future, far too important to sit back while separatists put it at risk. Time to take action. Why are you laughing as soon as I said
I'm ready
that? I
for
thought
these comments.
Well, this is just nuts.
That's what I'm just...
So Jeff replies.
Get my popcorn here.
And again, this is like, I should read the handle sometimes so you get an idea. Jeff, no profile pic, with the handle Jeff 12311351243, a.k.a. Sergey. Wonders, what action are you referring to? It sounds like a threat to me, he says. The only action to be taken will be a vote on the referendum on October 9th, which there will be that. Julius said, I have to consciously not get caught up in left versus right politics because that's a distraction for the plebs to stay oblivious of the real threat we face. The more appropriate focus is a fight for national preservation against eco-fascist globalists. And ground zero of that fight is in Alberta, says Julius. Alberta's separation is the preservation of what Canada once was, the Canada that my family members gave their lives for. Says Liberal voting in Canada's lost. They've been manipulated and brainwashed by government-owned mainstream media. Shame on you, Ryan, for supporting the destruction the Liberals have caused and continue to cause Canada whatever pays your bills, I suppose. I haven't engaged Julius on that one yet, but I think a lot of people are probably going to be thinking about what pays their bills. A lot of people are going to be thinking about the value of their properties, the security of their jobs in the separation conversation, and they have. Chuck says, without Alberta, Canada is toast. Albertans are done with the power-hungry East that will never allow Western Canada the same ratio of seats to population. Our World in Color says it's really hard to take this seriously when beta males, I guess that's me and Max, beta males start talking like they're superior. Still having trouble with the there spelling. Says those dudes have never been punched in the face. That's where you're wrong. Says you keep trying, little buddy. The comments go on. Mick says Canada's a dump, but there's a lot of stuff that's hard for me to read about our beloved nation of Canada in the comments.
Before you keep going, this is the one thing I would listen more to separation arguments if every time they weren't just trashing the country I love. And I was born in the States.
Yeah.
I could move to the States and
there's a lot of
all these things they talk about in the States that are better than here in Canada right now, or we need to improve, or we can be more like this. Like, I choose to live in Canada. This is a safe, regardless of what people say. In most terms, when you look at it, Canada is safe. It's got a lot of freedom. It's got low taxes, especially here in Alberta. Jesus. It's got a good cost of value for living. I admit that everywhere in the country it has changed and it's expensive for everyone. But to say that Canada is a dump and that everyone is living in conscription and this is like a dictatorship, that is not. It's a fantasy.
Yeah,
the majority of us get up every day and we live a pretty relaxed life.
Based on the spelling that I'm seeing in some of these tweets, these are high school dropouts that are making about $180,000 in the oil patch.
But I'm not saying anything about their education.
I am. Joe says when people talk about the Canada that used to be, that's a not even subtle racist dog whistle. Ken says another dude who hides behind a fake name to play tough guy. Super Chat Ken says separatists somehow think our politicians wouldn't take a disguised bribe to join the U.S. in a minute, are living in a fantasy world. Chest Rockwell says, yeah, head down, right,
Chest?
Ryan? Yeah. Just keep going with the status quo, Alberta, getting less representation, getting pushed and bullied around. You're pathetic, says Chest. Again, it's apostrophe R. I mean, I sorry. Jason says, all right, Ryan, what sort of action are you alluding to? It's the incorrect spelling of alluding. Is this turning into do I need alluding to says right now all that's happening is a group that's exercising their charter rights to start a discussion, a debate about the future of Canada. It sounds to me like you want to stop discussion and debate. If so, you'll do more for separation than unity. It's so funny how these people that are big about take back Alberta, take action, take back. And then I'm like, guys, we got to take some action on this. They're like, what do you mean? That sounds like a threat. It sounds to me like you want to stop discussion. This was my favorite one, John, from Albertan separatist who tapped Grok on the shoulder, the AI engine on X. And I thought maybe that Albertan separatist was pursuing something nefarious. They asked Grok which entity they were digging up. They had a theory. Which entity owns the media company that Ryan Jesperson works for? And what city is that corporation headquartered in? Albertan separatists must have been so disappointed when Grok returned that Real Talk Ryan Jesperson is an independent online audio-video media company created, hosted, and owned by Ryan Jesperson, operating as a small independent production outfit headquartered in Edmonton, Alberta. It was weird that there wasn't a celebration after that of Real Talk as a true Alberta success story. Albertan separatists must not have.
So since we've started this show, this is what kind of exposes me, because I was like, before I'd read crazy tweets and I'd be like, maybe that's true. I should go dig around. But for people to say that our media company is owned by some veiled secret group or
we are for sale. The first person to offer $50 million.
I would love that.
We're for sale.
Ish.
We are for sale.
Do it now. But also the main points, going back to people who trash the country, it's the same points every time. Well, housing is unaffordable. You know what? Housing is unaffordable in the U.S., in Australia, in the U.K., in Germany, in Ireland, in New Zealand. Inflation's too high. Inflation is high in all the countries I just mentioned, as well as in Asian places as well. Like all these problems that people say makes Canada the worst place to live ever, that makes it a, quote, dump, is things that everyone in every other country is dealing on a world scale. And it's just, it's so ignorant to like put it in under a microscope and say, this is why Canada sucks.
But here's
it's
one of the
why
reasons
Canada sucks. It's the problems we have internationally.
Well, and also when you lie, when you deceive people, when you mislead people and
because it
convince
is partly
people
true
that what's going to happen is that all of a sudden they found these like obscure legal loopholes that like the pipeline companies didn't think to explore. Nobody else thought to explore them, but they found it on Facebook that there's like this UN thing that you can run a pipeline through a country without like, there's going to be no income tax. There's going to be, this sort of a thing. Then, of course, you're going to convince like the low IQ voters that this is a better move. Keith, what about Keith? Says, forget these liberal supporting fools. Let's go Alberta. Says we have Eastern Canada and libtard supporters through the country running scared. Let them all move east if they do not appreciate Alberta and its fine people. That was one of my favorites.
As he's
like basically, fuck you.
As he's machine gun insulting everyone on his feed. But
right?
Like, what a great point by you as well. Like that the oil people who are perpetuating or like pushing for like that the oil executives don't have the highest priced lawyers, number guys who've gone through everything and tried to develop more of their product. But these people online, they have the answer. You know why? They have an AI generated PDF of all the upsides of separation.
Yeah. Lindsay says, so what do you suggest we do with all these rebels, Ryan? Round them up?
Jesus.
Put him in jail?
Not at all.
Oh, wouldn't that be, we've said this on the show before, for Jeff Rath, the organizers of the Alberta Prosperity Project, getting arrested or thrown in jail would be the best thing that could ever happen to those guys.
I was just going to say, you know what I'd like to see?
The Ezra Levant School of Fundraising.
You know what I'd like to see, but it'd probably just give them too much. I'd love to see a reality show on Alberta separatists, just day to day, their struggle, trying to free this nation, trying to make it better.
Freedom.
And just totally from their point of view. I would watch that. I would binge 4 seasons in a row. Let's go.
Soap says, but you're okay with Quebec having separatists? Go fuck yourself, hypocrite. I'd love to read Turdo Sucks comment, but we try to limit the number of times I say cocksuckers on the show, so I think I'll steer clear of that one.
But you're seeing on your screen, if you're watching on YouTube, the sheer amount.
Hundreds.
It's not the actual content of the comment. It's the sheer amount and also the usernames.
The Confederate flag with an Alberta theme to it. Thank you for Kevin contributing that.
Yeah.
Anyway, you get the idea, but I just this is a wake up call for me. The Critical Compass says it's incredible how you consistently manage to be on the wrong side of everything. How exactly are you going to take action against us holding a democratic referendum? Be specific, says the Critical Compass. Says, anyway, keeps going. I love this from Shane. My advice is to keep it peaceful. Violence isn't the answer. What are people talking about?
And this is what happens nowadays. Whenever somebody who doesn't agree with something says take action, people immediately fan it as, it's going to be violence. That's not what it means at all. It means speak up. Let your opinion be heard. And especially when we know, you and I both know, we want this referendum tomorrow because we know, even though those numbers that I know, I do agree, Max, that he's showing are scary. Especially when you turn it into send a message. We still know the majority of Albertans love Alberta. They love Canada as well. They just want a little bit better deal.
Yeah, Jinja Ninja, we'd love to read your comment, but we don't say the R word because, again, like we said, empathy, intelligence.
I mean,
Nash says, I find it offensive for you to start labeling people like me as separatists, as if it's a slur. I loved the Canada I grew up in during the late 80s, early 90s. I want that country back. There's no way that's going to happen if we don't leave and hit a hard reset. So what are you saying, Nash? You want to separate? What would you call, Nash, somebody who separates?
How dare you call me?
I believe you'd be called a separatist. And if the phrase makes you uncomfortable, perhaps you should reevaluate your affinity for the position.
How dare you call me Jesus? I'm a doctor.
Oh, my gosh. It's probably my favorite Trump story yet, to be honest with you. And there's a lot.
That whole press conference was just, first of all, he's getting like 2 bags of McDonald's delivered to the White House in like the most scripted, like the DoorDash person just walks across the White House lawn to like a door, and Trump has the words, I've never seen this before. He must have been adding it as well. The Oval Office in gold font on the door that she's knocking on. And, proceeds to do the whole thing. And you sent me, thank you for the greatest AI generated version of that interview.
You like that?
You sent me last night.
People can check out my Instagram story if they want to see that. It's
pretty awesome.
Yeah, Trump is a doctor dressed as Jesus.
But again, this is another thing. It's like separatists don't want to be called separatists now. Like I was talking to a friend the other day, and he's like, "We need a better deal from Ottawa, and I would be inclined to vote." I'm like, "Oh, so you're a separatist?" He's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." He went like this. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
Easy with the rhetoric.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you talking about?
But this is what people have been saying. You want to,
saying.
And I think that the most anyone's. Yeah, I'm scratch our shows back for a second. Like last time Danielle Smithson here, Premier of Alberta, would ask her like 3 questions in a row. Like people want to know, like, how do you feel about Alberta's future in Canada? Then she gives the comment, which she has been trotting out and people have been using, and it's insufficient for a lot of folks. I understand why. What do they say? I support Alberta's sovereignty within a united Canada. What does that mean? So you follow up on it. People want to know, like, where do you stand on it? It's why people are smirking, if not sort of like gobsmacked when we see polling results that shows that portion of people, it's typically between 5 and 10% of people that say, I'm undecided right now. I'm not sure where I stand. People want to know right now, where do you stand on it?
I'm thinking about moving to Seattle, but I may stay in Edmonton.
Yes. I watched that Jailblazers documentary last night, Portland Trail.
Oh my gosh.
I shouldn't have done it. Well, I was just, and I can't help myself.
Let's assemble the whole
holy
bad
smokes.
gang of...
Eco Fashion says both you ignoramuses bleeding about this will only serve to energize the separatist movement. Vincent, these guys are just desperate for like a martyr type. Vincent, take what action, Ryan? Violence? How do you stop people from signing a petition? It's like people have never heard the word action before.
Thanks for leaving me out of this combo. It's just you and Max getting railed on.
Yeah. Isabel says, Ryan, Canada is sleepwalking into communism. Cheryl says, take action, freeze our bank accounts, pepper spray, beating us with bully sticks.
What? Where did this happen?
Stubble Jumper is wondering if Real Talk is subsidized by the liberal government. Get that, Johnny? It's super funny because like they took the spelling of liberal, but they started with lie.
Very witty.
So witty. Wondering if we're subsidized by the liberal government as other media is. Mm-hmm. We don't receive nearly enough money from the feds, if you ask me. We just completed our tax returns.
Those are rookie numbers. They need to bump those up.
Anyway, I've gone through, there's, 300-400 comments, so I'm not going to read them all, but I just was like, this is a perspective check, friends. And, in all seriousness, we don't know if these people are real humans. We don't know if these people live in Alberta. We don't know if these people are old enough to vote. We don't know if these people mean what they say. But I would say, and the reason why I want to shine a light on this quickly is because this is something we will continue to do leading up until October 19th, and that is to remind you that what is happening is extremely important. It's important to the future of Canada. Canada is worth fighting for, and our Canada includes Alberta. Damn it! And we'll continue to stand by that and stay tuned for Real Talk hoodies leading up to the referendum.
We need you guys more than ever.
We're finalizing our hoodie
Just
design.
kidding.
We need you.
I did check out some of the accounts there, and a lot of them are based, surprisingly, based in the United States. Now, people will argue that they're using a VPN or whatever. Some of them say Russia. I'm not joking. Go look at those comments, Real Talkers, and click on some of the profiles and see where they're based. And so that leads me to believe, I'm not saying they all are, that they're either bots or they have something to hide, right? You go to our profiles, they say Edmonton, Canada, right? We're open about all of that. But It also leads me to believe, not that people are paid, but like, especially on X, it's since Elon has taken over, I just see a lot of these accounts that you can't really put a lot of weight behind. And that it may be someone with 10 accounts that just goes on there and makes 10 different comments. You know what I mean? And it looks like a crowd of people yelling when it's one guy going, "Hey, you guys."
Oh, wow, great reference. Great reference. I mean, we could sit here on this all day. I'll tell you guys what we'll do. We're going to keep the conversation going. We love hanging out with you guys in our live chat, powered by Park Power, and I appreciate the conversations that are happening there. Yeah, go ahead.
The wise guy, just read Kyle's comment.
Kyle's comment? This show has pushed me more to vote to separate. Is that it? That's fine. I would say also, like,
another check in the mail.
It's, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Kyle can elaborate on that. Kyle, you can send me an email if you want to talk at RyanJesperson.com. I mean, the show has pushed you more to vote to separate. Interesting. I would say when it comes at the end of the day to the scoreboard and the ratio, I'll make it my life's work, or at least my life's work up until October 19th of 2026 to make sure that this show prompts and convinces more people to vote for Alberta to stay than to leave. And I'll leave it at that. Talk at RyanJesperson.com is where you can send us a note. Friends, as we wrap this episode of the show, again, BenStelterFoundation.com is where you can register to come take all my money at the Hearts and Hands Poker Tournament. That's coming up starting on the 16th of April. That's tomorrow. That's also on a special episode of Real Talk where we're going to take a closer look at this new Alberta whiskey legislation. Kind of a cool Real Talk roundtable outside the news cycle to come. And then coming up on Friday, don't forget the mayors of Edmonton and Calgary, Knack, Farkas, in studio right here, only on Real Talk. We'll see you again soon.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton, member emerita Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out RyanJesperson.com.